This is distinguished Toastmaster Brahmakumar. Today I'm talking to you about Bagan. Bagan is a city located in Myanmar. It is a UNESCO World Heritage Site. From the 19th to 13th centuries, the city of Bagan was the capital of the Bagan Kingdom, the first kingdom that unified the regions that would later constitute Myanmar. During the kingdom's height, between the 11th and 13th century, more than 10,000 Buddhist temples, pagodas, and monasteries were constructed in the Bagan Plains alone, of which the remains of over 2,200 temples and pagodas survive today. The Bagan Archaeological Zone is a main attraction for Myanmar's nascent tourism industry. This is the height of the Bagan or Pagan Empire. Bagan is the present-day standard Burmese pronunciation of the Burmese word Pugan, derived from Old Burmese Pukam. According to the Burmese chronicles, Bagan was founded in the 2nd century AD and fortified in 849 AD by King Pinbaya, 34th successor of the founder of early Bagan. Mainstream scholarship, however, holds that Bagan was founded in the mid to late 9th century by the Myanmar Burmans who had recently entered the Irrawaddy Valley from the Nan Chao kingdom. It was among several competing few city-states until the late 10th century when the Burman settlement grew in authority and grandeur. From 1047 to 1287, Bagan was the capital as well as the political, economic, and cultural nerve center of the Bagan Empire. Over the course of 250 years, Bagan's rulers and their wealthy subjects constructed over 10,000 religious monuments, approximately 1,000 stupas, 10,000 small temples, and 3,000 monasteries in an area of 104 kilometers in the Bagan Plains. The prosperous city grew in size and grandeur and became a cosmopolitan center for the religious and secular studies, specializing in Pali scholarship, in grammar, and philosophical psychological studies known as Abhidhamma, as well as works in a variety of languages on prosody, phonology, grammar, astrology, alchemy, medicine, and legal studies. The city attracted monks and students from as far as India, Sri Lanka, and the Khmer Empire. The culture of Bagan was dominated by religion. The religion of Bagan was fluid, syncretic, and by later standards unorthodox. It was largely a continuation of religious trends in the Pew era where Theravada Buddhism coexisted with Mahayana Buddhism, Tantric Buddhism, various Hindu, that is Saivite and Vaishnavite schools, as well as the native animist or NAT traditions. While the royal patronage of Theravada Buddhism since the mid 11th century had enabled the Buddhist schools to gradually gained primacy, other traditions continued to thrive throughout the pagan period, degrees later unseen. The Bagan Empire or Pagan Empire collapsed in 1287 due to repeated Mongol invasions from 1277 to 1301. Research shows that Mongol armies may not have reached Bagan itself and that even if they did, the damage they inflicted were probably minimal. However, the damage had already been done. Since the city, once home to some 50,000 to 200,000 people, had been reduced to a small town never to regain its preeminence. City formally ceased to be the capital of Burma in December 1297 when the Minsang Kingdom became the new power in Upper Burma. Bagan survived into the 15th century, a human settlement, and as a pilgrimage destination throughout the imperial period. A smaller number of new and impressive religious monuments still went up to the mid-15th century. But afterward, new temple constructions slowed to a trickle with fewer than 200 temples built between the 15th and 20th century. The old capital remained a pilgrimage destination, but pilgrimage was focused only on a score or so. Most temples out of the thousands, such as the Ananda, Sri Zigon, Sulamani, the Hit Tilo Minlo, the Damya Zika, and few other temples along an ancient road. Whereas thousands of less famous, out of the way temples fell into disrepair and most did not survive the test of time. For the few dozen temples that were regularly patronized, the continued patronage meant regular upkeep as well as architectural additions needed by the devotees. Many temples were repainted with frescoes on top of the original pagan era ones, fitted with new Buddha statues. Then came a series of state-sponsored systematic renovations in the Kongbong period, 1752 to 1885, which by and large was not true to the original designs. Some finished with a rude plastered surface, scratched without taste, art, or resolve. The interiors of some temples were also whitewashed, such as the Tat Binyu and the Ananda. Many painted inscriptions and even murals were added in this period. Bagan, located in an active earthquake zone, had suffered from many earthquakes over the ages, with over 400 recorded between 1904 and 1975. A major earthquake occurred on 8 July 1975. The quake damaged many temples in many cases, just as the Bupaya severely and irreparably. Today, only 2,229 temples and pagodas remain. Many of those damaged pagodas underwent restorations in the 1990s by the military government, which sought to make Bagan an international tourist destination. But the restoration efforts instead drew widespread condemnation from art historians and preservationists worldwide. Critics argue that the restoration paid little attention to original architectural styles and used modern materials, and that the government has also established a golf course, a paved highway, and built a 61-meter watchtower. However, although the government believed that the ancient capitals, hundreds of temples, and locus of stone instruments were more than sufficient to win the designation of UNESCO World Heritage Center. The city was not designated until 2019, allegedly on account of the restorations. Bagan today is the main tourist attraction in the country's nascent tourist industry, which has long been the target of various boycott campaigns. Several Burmese publications note that the city's small tourism infrastructure will have to expand rapidly even to meet a modest pickup in tourism in the years ahead. On July 2019, Bagan was officially inscribed as a World Heritage Site by UNESCO. As a World Heritage Site by UNESCO after 24 years since the military government first nominated the city in 1995 during the 43rd session of the World Heritage Committee. This makes Bagan the second World Heritage Site in Myanmar after the ancient cities of Pew. As part of the criteria for the inscription of the Bagan, the government of Myanmar has pledged to relocate in the archaeological zone to a dedicated hotel zone. Bagan Archaeological Zone, defined as 13 by 8 kilometers, centered around Old Bagan, consisting of Nyang Yu in the north and New Bagan in the south, lies in the expanse of plains in Upper Burma on the bend of the Irrawaddy Road. It is located 290 kilometers southwest of Mandalay and 700 kilometers north of Yangon. And here we see some more pictures of Bagan, which had 10,000 temples and monasteries during its heyday. Today, hot air balloons fly over pagodas in Bagan. Here is the view of the Bagan plains from the Irrawaddy River. With that, I end my session for today. If you have a chance, visit the Bagan plains and the temples in Myanmar.